Headlines today. UK inflation is expected to increase to its highest level for 21 months. The figure for September comes out in an hour's time.
Good morning. This latest figure has added importance as it's used to set the increase in a number of key benefits, including universal credit. I'll run through all the numbers.
After 3 abuse survivors resign, the Home Secretary insists the government's inquiry into grooming gangs will not be watered down and that there'll be no hiding place for the abusers.
Millions of phone calls made by people who stammer are mishandled by businesses every year. We'll be looking at what can be done to help.
A new home for the 1,500 silhouettes commemorating the British servicemen who gave their lives on D-Day will be in Fort Nelson, standing with giants. Let's run you through the front of today's newspapers and the front of the Daily Mail saying that grooming gangs inquiry is in chaos after 3 abuse survivors resigned from that process.
Putin defies Trump as peace talks collapse is the lead story for the Daily Telegraph today. The two men were planning to meet to discuss an end to fighting in Ukraine, but that's been put on hold. As we told you just a little earlier on the programme, the paper reports the Russian leader refuses to freeze front lines.
The I headline says problems pile up for Reeves, as it says benefits are set to rise by around 4% because of inflation. We've been talking about that. The paper reports the Chancellor's now facing a triple whammy of high borrowing costs and pension and benefit rises.
And The Guardian has an image of the former French President Nicolas Sarkozy and his wife Carla Bruni as he heads to jail to start a 5-year sentence for conspiring to fund his election campaign with money from the late Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi.
Now, UK inflation is expected to rise to its highest level for 21 months, posing further challenges for Chancellor Rachel Reeves ahead of the autumn budget next month.
Economists have predicted the September figure could reach 4%, which is double the Bank of England's target. And later this morning, we'll get an update on how quickly prices rose last month. Emma has been taking a look for us. And Emma, this is a really important number, isn't it?
It is, more so this month, actually, particularly than others too. Good morning. For lots of things that we buy, the September inflation figure, which comes out at 7 o'clock, will tell us how much more expensive they were this year compared with last year. Now, inflation was 3.8% in August, meaning prices have risen by that much on average across a year. Economists are predicting that may nudge up to 4% when we find out at 7 o'clock. Now, the government would like that figure to be much more like 2% because that's the kind of rate of price rises that lots of economists believe is best for a healthy economy. When prices go up too fast, it means household incomes don't stretch as far, and this number can also have a knock-on effect for all sorts of other things, like whether our mortgages go up or down. Things are also tricky for the UK government because of this. Last week, we found out that the UK is predicted to have the highest inflation in the G7 this year and next. And that's comparing the UK against countries like France, Germany, Canada and the US. This month's inflation figure is also particularly important because it's used to decide how much lots of people's benefits go up by. And higher inflation could mean billions get added onto the welfare bill next year. It's a massive cost that the government have been keen to reduce. And the moment is approaching, of course, when the government has to decide how to pay for it all. In November's autumn budget, many people are expecting that the Chancellor will opt to bring in tax rises. This latest inflation figure just out shows inflation at 3.8% in September. Now, it's remained at that figure for a 3rd month in a row. That's the amount, on average, that prices of lots of things we buy rose across a year. Still nearly double the Bank of England's target of 2%. Now, the Bank of England controls the cost of borrowing. It moves interest rates up and down to try to control inflation. So higher inflation means interest rates are less likely to come down, which affects how much many people each month pay on their mortgages. Now, this September inflation figure of 3.8% is also particularly important because it will decide how much many people's benefits rise by next year, things like universal credit. And it means the country's welfare bill will go up by a lot more than it did last year. And all the while, the government has been trying to bring the cost of welfare down. So the Chancellor will have to figure out how to pay for everything in next month's crucial budget, when many people believe that tax rises are likely. And today's inflation figure is not going to make her choices any easier, Sally.
Emma, thank you.
Tonight at 6, the teenager who murdered this boy, 15-year-old Harvey Wilgoose, at school is jailed for life. Mohammed Umar Khan, who's also 15, has been named publicly for the first time after he stabbed Harvey to death. This is Harvey's mother.
He's been made an example of, to be honest. I'm really pleased with it not just being 15 years, it was 16 years, and that he was named.
Also tonight, a migrant who was removed under the government's one-in, one-out scheme after arriving in a small boat is back after crossing the channel again. The Prime Minister defends the grooming gang inquiry as the second of two candidates lined up to chair it pulls out. The King and Queen have just arrived in Italy at the start of a two-day state visit to the Vatican. We speak to a woman who was landed with a £150 fine after pouring some coffee into a drain in a street in London. And how Sarah Perry, a teacher from Cumbria, just ran into the world record books after almost 400 miles in 4 days without stopping around a backyard in Tennessee. A teenager who murdered another pupil at a school in Sheffield has been given a life sentence with a minimum term of 16 years. And coming up, we speak to best-selling author Sir Philip Pullman ahead of the publication of his final novel in his series about the adventures of spirited heroine Lyra.
The mother of baby P makes her latest bid for release. But why was Tracy Connolly sent back to jail? We'll bring you all the details.
I'll be chatting with one of the world's most famous women as Kim Kardashian attends the premiere of her brand new legal drama series.
An installation dedicated to the British servicemen who died on D-Day finds a new home.
And Storm Benjamin is making its way to France, but how will it affect the UK?